Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knit Chat. My name is Claudia, and I will be your host today for this podcast. I haven't done a Knit Chat in a little while. If you're here only to listen, it's perfect because the visual is basically just me knitting. If you hear the clickety clack of the needles, it's because I'm knitting right now. I'm making a ranunculus sweater out of mohair. And I thought today was a great timing to knit while I chat because I have a lot of projects on my needles at the moment and I really want to be finishing some of them. The subject today is about why I would never want to be a monogamous knitter. I'm not a mono project person. I'm absolutely a multi-project person. I have a whole lot on my needles at all times. And I wanted to talk about why. Because if you are a crafter, you probably fall into one of two camps. One, the camp that I'm not part of is the one where you cast on something, whether it's crochet or knitting or, a sewing project, and then you finish it before you work on anything else. I think I would categorize someone monogamous if they also have different crafts, but in each individual craft, they only have one project going on. Meaning if you sew and you knit and you weave and you have one project each, I would still call that monogamous because it's different fiber arts or you know what I mean. But if you're like me, you might have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, who knows how many projects going on, whether they are active project, meaning you're actually like crafting or making progress on them, I would say in a matter of like a week, or some are dormant projects, obviously, that are just like kind of shoved away and you don't know when you're going to pick them back up. And it might be tomorrow or it might be never, but they're still on the needles. You haven't given up on them. So I'm absolutely 100% the second type of person. And I was kind of going through my stuff in the last week because I'm trying to set up my office, which is going relatively okay. I'm still missing kind of the main part of the space that's going to make it practical, which is a desk. I'm actually probably looking to purchase 2 desks in order to set up. So as I was, trying to figure out how I was going to set up, I decided to empty some boxes. Like I have some IKEA boxes that go in, it's like those fabric cubes. And I have a lot of yarn in there, and unfortunately I've had some moth. So I was going through and taking things out of all those cubes to kind of shake them and see what the damage was and see if I still had moth and etc. And as I was doing that, I pulled out quite a few projects that were kind of left on the side. And it made me think, well, I want to talk about why I have a lot of projects going on. Because some people definitely find it stressful when they have a lot of things on their needle, but I am very okay with having a lot, and here's some of the top reasons why I love having a lot of projects going on. So the obvious reason for me is to fight boredom. It can be easy to kind of get bored with a project. You've been working on it for, some hours. It was exciting at first, and then you go, I'm bored of doing the same thing. Right now, I just split for the body of the sweater, which means that I'm going to be on stockinette mode for a little while. I'm only knitting stockinette in the round, so I could get bored of doing that. That's absolutely possible. While I knit on endless miles of stockinette stitch, I do like to do a lot of things, including going on a walk with my dog, listening to a podcast, but also I love to learn, which is great because today's sponsor is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community. It's the largest online learning community that will allow you to learn bunch of things, from crafting to photography to cooking to growing your business, learning about content creation and other things. It is designed for creatives, so obviously people like you and I. I've been trying to use my time in a more efficient way, and I've been taking a class about using AI to help me in my everyday tasks as a business owner. If you don't know where to start, there is this new feature on Skillshare that's called the Learning Path that allows you to choose a particular subject and just follow what Skillshare has selected for you to learn more about that subject. A lot of the classes have projects attached to it that you can make, so you really feel like you've achieved something by the end of the course. If you'd like to join Skillshare, the first 500 people to use my link in the description box will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today. Another example is a giant crochet, granny square crochet blanket that I'm doing. I absolutely got bored multiple times during that project, and so I work on it intensely for a little bit, and then I get bored, so I put it away. And then when time comes that I have a need for crochet again, then I pull it out and I keep working on it. So that's definitely one of the top reasons. But that reason could also then kind of become a reason to cast on more and more and more and more projects, and then turns out that you have 50 different projects and you never finish any. That could be the result. But for me, there's more than just the boredom reason, which is why I never let it go out of hand, I don't believe, when it comes to how many things I cast on. I do put some rules, and I'll tell those later. Another reason that I like to have many projects on the go all at once is for the functionality. I am not a person who knits only at home. I'm a person who knits everywhere, anywhere, at all times. And so when it's time to leave my house and go to certain things, I have to consider, what do I have right now that is small enough to be easy to carry, depending on if I'm gonna bring a bigger bag, or I don't want to bring a bigger bag and I only want to walk around with my little, I have this right now, this little pouch. Basically it's a little crossbody, banana bag, whatever you call them, fanny pack, and it fits my one skein of mohair for the sweater perfectly well. But I wouldn't want to carry around a sweater that has the whole body done and half of the sleeves, and I can't shove that into a small bag and go. So size is important when it comes to that, and also where I'm at in the project. So I think it happened a few days ago. I was leaving in a hurry to go somewhere, and I knew I might have a few minutes to knit while I was waiting somewhere. But I didn't want to bring something that was complex, and I was still in the lace portion of my sweater, and I was like, okay, I don't want to have to look at a pattern, so let me just grab the socks that I have, that I'm on the foot of the sock, so it's just knitting round and round and round, stockinette stitch. It's portable, it's stockinette stitch, I'm not gonna have to think about anything, great. Whereas at home, I'll pick up my my sweater that has a lace pattern, and I can look at the pattern and I can be concentrating on what I'm doing. So that's another reason, is to always have something that's ready to go when I need to do something simple. So I always have either a hat or a sock, one of those projects that literally can be brought with me, and that is going to be like miles and miles of stockinette stitch. Another reason, and some people might be surprised by that one, but it's really important to me, is for health reasons. So knitting is a repetitive movement, so repetitive strain injuries are a thing. And right now I'm knitting this sweater, which is super small yarn, so lace weight mohair, but it's on 6mm needles. So those are pretty big needles, which means that at that size needle, for me, I have to do more movement with my hands in order to create stitches. Whereas I have another project on my needles, which is a sock. The sock is on mini circulars on 2mm needles. So it's a very tiny needle, but a very small circumference as opposed to a big sweater. I do have a crochet project. I have a project that's going to be on my needle soon that's going to be a back and forth project. So I'm going to be doing more purling. There are projects that I have that require different manipulation. So different size needles and different size yarn will help keep me from getting hurt. Even though I'm still doing the same movements, we're not doing it the same way. And so my hands and my wrists can relax. If I knit too long on the same thing only, and I never, if I do a full project A to Z without knitting on anything else, then I start sometimes to get pain in my hands and in my fingers, in my, my wrists and everything. And I know I could just take a few days off, but I don't want to. So for me, changing what I'm knitting on throughout the day helps not having to take days off. Isn't it nice? So it's really important for me. So, it happened to me before. I was like, oh my God, I'm so into this pattern. I really want to do the whole thing, mostly if it's like crochet or something that I'm less used to doing. And then I work really hard on this one thing for hours and hours and hours. And then I'm in pain the next day. And I know why. It's because I didn't pace myself and do different things. So that's another reason why I have multiple projects on the go at all times. There's also obviously something that's very particular to me personally. I knit as a hobby, but I knit as my job as well. Meaning my job is having 2 YouTube channels, writing knitting books, teaching knitting lessons, online tutorials. My job involves knitting a lot. And my job is also to be a content creator because, YouTube is teaching, but it's also content creating. And I have a TikTok and an Instagram. So I have to knit on more than one thing at a time in order for me to have things to show and things to talk about. And that's very particular to me personally. And if I didn't like knitting on a lot of different things, maybe I would finish more things, which could also get more interesting for people to see. But where am I going with that? What I mean is that I'm casting on more things to show more things, but also in the end, I'm finishing less things. So I don't know if it's actually doing what I want it to do, but it means that when I'm doing some sort of show and tell, I have more things to show because I'm knitting on more things at a time. Make sense? It's also a way for me to be using a lot of different yarns in my stash. If I do one project at a time only, I'm only touching that one yarn. It comes back to like getting bored or being tired of knitting on something, but also like, I don't know, touching different textures, seeing different colors, spending time looking at my yarn and actually using it is such a dopamine boost. So when I cast on something new, I feel like I'm moving things around in my environment, my stash, and I'm actually using the yarn I have. I do have quite a bit of yarn, obviously, and the ones that are dormant in my in my cupboards are not being used at this moment, but they are tied to a pattern, which because I started it. So it's not a bad thing to have many started because I already know where I'm going with them. Whereas when there's yarn in my stash that I'm just staring at going, oh yeah, I bought this, what am I gonna make with it? I spend so much time just thinking about what am I gonna make with it? What am I gonna make with it? And oftentimes I think about it and I don't write it down. I just go, oh yeah, I could make this. And then if I don't do it, and if I don't start it, then I forget. And then I spend another bunch of time thinking later on, like, I don't know, in 3 months, I'm going to see the same yarn and go, wait a second, what was I going to do with this yarn? Oh, I don't remember. And then I spend another few hours thinking about what am I going to do with this yarn? Whereas if it started, I was like, what was I doing with this yarn? Oh yeah, I was doing that. Great, I'll keep going. I'd be curious, like if you want to leave me a comment, if you're on YouTube, or if you're you want to write to me and tell me if you have a tendency to cast on multiple things, or if you go from A to Z and you make the thing. I'd be very curious. Another thing is I mentioned having multiple different things going on at once. So I do have a few rules that I set up for myself. Generally, and I've been known to break that rule, but I try to only have one sweater going at a time because sweater projects are a little bit more lengthy. They take more time. They take more, dedication and everything, and they take space. I don't want to have multiple sweaters on my needles at once. But I've broken that rule quite a few times. So now I'm pretty sure that my new rule is 2. I don't want to have more than 2 sweaters on the needle at the same time, or else I feel like I'm never going to finish them. When it comes to socks, I generally am actively working on one sock at a time. I don't have multiple socks going unless I have tutorials that I'm filming or something that sock is tied to beading. That sock has a purpose, so I'm knitting that sock for this purpose, but I cannot knit on it in between, let's say, a class that I'm teaching. Then maybe I'll have 2 pairs of socks on my needle, but it's because one is very much for this class that's, every week or whatever. I have to say, though, that I have quite a few socks that are single socks. And I don't have second sock syndrome. It's not because I don't want to knit the second sock. It's because, like I said, some socks are for a certain purpose. And once I'm done one sock, usually that purpose is done. So I filmed a video on my English YouTube channel on how to knit a sock. I knit one sock for that class. So now I have this one sock and it's alone. But it's not because I don't want to knit. The next one is just because there's another one on my needles. So once that one is not on my needle anymore, then I'll cast on for the second sock. And it'll have a brother or sister. I don't know if they're girls or boys. They haven't told me. That being said, sometimes my kids want me to knit them something, and I don't want to be the person that says, well, I can't because I'm knitting this one project that I have to finish before I knit you something. I like to be able to tell them, yeah, sure, I'll start. And when I've started, then they see it and they go, okay, Mom, is it almost done? And so it motivates me to keep going. So it's also a great way to keep me accountable when I have multiple things on my needles. I have people asking me, hey, how's this project going? And either I'm saying, yeah, I'm not working on it right now, I should, or I'm, the reason why I put it away was because I was missing a skein of yarn, like my blanket, so I just need to go buy another skein of yarn to finish my blanket. But I don't generally give up on things, and it's happened before. But the things that I've given up on are very much things that once it was time to say, okay, now I'm moving and I need to kind of make a decision. Then if I hadn't knit on it for multiple years, I just decided that it's because I didn't really want this thing. Like if I look at the sweater that's behind me, it is a all over colorwork sweater, and it was a long, tedious job to knit. And it took me a long time, and I took many breaks from it. But every time I saw it in my pile of, oh, well, this is waiting for me to get back to it, I was excited about working on it again, because I thought, yeah, once it's done, I'm going to be so happy and I'm going to want to wear it, which I do. Whereas other ones were in the pile and I was like, oh, do I want to keep going? Am I going to wear it? I don't know if it fits with, what I want anymore. And so those I ended up ripping out. And I feel like it's pretty easy for me to figure out if I want to do something or not. So I would say don't stop yourself because of other people saying, if you start too many things, you're never going to finish any. Because ultimately, what brings you joy? Is it to have one thing finished, or is it to be working on many different things at once because it makes you happy? Clearly, I know what makes me happy, but then it's about what makes you happy. I'm just giving you the go ahead. If you think that having multiple things on your needle will make you happy, then go for it. It's all good. It's all fine. It's all knitting, and not everything has to be finished. It's a little bit like reading. You don't have to finish every book you start if you're not enjoying yourself. So if you're not enjoying yourself knitting something and it's not sparking joy, well, Marie Kondo it for a while. Put it away for a while. I know that Marie Kondoing is not to put away. It's actually to get rid of it. But my version as a knitter is put it away for a while and see if in a few weeks, when you've worked on other things, the joy is back for that pattern and that garment or whatever it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. I was happy to chat with you. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on the YouTube channel, because there's going to be more awesome videos coming. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.